5-minute penalty to Chicago, a game misconduct, and then Manson having words with Steven. And now Butcher gets into it. We're going to have a brawl, folks. Stand by.
What's up, everyone? Tyler Cash here. This is another episode of Fourth Line Goon Hockey Podcast. Chilling in my apartment here in Las Vegas, Nevada, enjoying a rock star recovery. I'm cutting back on the booze a little bit.
Canned match, but mine's I can't see it. Sparkling water.
Oh yeah. So how you doing, bud?
Good. Blues, not so much when it comes to COVID, but I'm doing good at least.
Yeah. No, it seems to be plaguing the entire league. Actually, I mean, there's been games being postponed left and right, and there's talks about potential not possible Olympic interaction. Sending players off. We'll get to that. That's in some of our notes as well. But yeah, I just got back in town from St. Louis myself, and it wouldn't feel right if I didn't share my story. I don't know if you saw. I posted a TikTok. I made my first TikTok and I posted about my experience. Did you see what I'm talking about?
I don't think I did. No.
Dude. Okay. So I decided I'm in a men's league, beer league team, roller team back in St. Louis still, and they made playoffs. We were the 4th seed and we were going to play the 1st seed Thursday night. So I decided I'm going to take a flight. I found a cheap flight, red eye, of course. So I got
shout out Frontier Airlines.
Yep. They should probably sponsor the podcast, honestly, for as often as I fly Frontier. And thank you, by the way, for never checking if I paid for my checked bags, because I didn't. But anyways, that's besides the point. Hit the flight about 1 a.m. I land in St. Louis, Missouri at 6 a.m. And I'm exhausted. I actually played a beer league game for my ice team here before the flight. Got on the flight, couldn't fucking sleep. Actually, I watched Moneyball. Have you ever seen Moneyball?
Yeah, Moneyball's great. I think it is, at least.
Okay, so it's great. I didn't really love the ending, but that's a different topic. But I'm glad I finally watched it. Great movie. Land in St. Louis, get a text message from my team letting me know that our playoffs have been officially postponed because they couldn't find a ref to fucking work for nachos and Bud Light on draft, as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, they literally postponed our playoffs another week, which I literally only flew into St. Louis to play hockey with my boys. Huge loss. It was fine though. I ate some Emo's pizza. I got drunk, went up to Hot Shots with some friends, and we actually made this little our own cup, our own trophy. And we had like a scrimmage, and it's whatever. But yeah, total buzzkill to land and not even. Yeah, I was basically just partying for 3 days for no purpose, which was fine, but still, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, hey, cheap flight, not the end of the world.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, shout out to Frontier, only costing me like $70 round trip.
Yeah.
But are you going back at all for the holidays? Have you figured that out?
Yeah, I'll be back probably like the week around Christmas time, something like that. Yeah, I think that's game plan.
Yeah, I would like to. I think that we're still not throwing it out the window if we can find a cheap flight. But I mean, as we get closer to the holidays, with people traveling to go see their families, it's obviously becoming harder and harder. But yeah, hockey time. I'll let you kick it off with some news that we're going to talk about this week.
Yeah, well, COVID-19 is not going away, right? It's
Omicron, right?
That's the new one. Omicron
the light. What is
I mean, obviously a hockey podcast, but apparently that one's not going to be as bad as everyone intended it or thinks it's going to be, which is good.
It's got the scariest name. Sounds like a transformer.
Yeah, I know, no kidding. But yeah, so we're looking at the Blues right now, injury plagued team. People like James Neal on IR, Clem Costin on IR, called up some young guys to take their place, at least one, because James Neal went on long-term IR, made me sad to hear that, but unfortunate nevertheless. But yeah, so before the Blues played the Lightning and their sort of home and home back-to-back type of a ordeal there, Bennington tested positive for COVID. Like, okay, shit, Bennington's out for 10 days. We can maybe manage that, whatever. And right before puck drop, oh, Justin Falk, you're also out. Sorry, bud. So now the Blues are literally playing 11 forwards and 7 D-men. And because COVID does not count as an actual injury, it's counted as just like being sick. You don't get cap relief. So the Blues are already the Blues are at like a max cap team, right? So basically at a point where if anyone gets COVID, if anyone gets injured and they can't go on LTIR, they can't call anyone up. So the following 2 days later, the Blues played the Panthers. And this is another thing no one really, I think, has thought about or thought it through or really expected to get to this point is Robert Thomas has been playing through something probably because he's had to play. We don't have anyone to replace him with. And now he's out for an unspecified period of time and he's not on LTIR yet. So we cannot call anyone up. We cannot do anything. We literally have to play shorthanded our next game. We have to play 17 skaters. Like we don't have a choice.
And at what point are they just going to say, hey, can we postpone some games? Like, I mean, the Islanders were in a similar boat and they wound up postponing games.
And it's not only that, it's we're literally have 10 forwards. We're going to have 3 lines and one and a fourth line guy and 7 D-men. Like what?
And then you're exhorting your players. I mean,
that's what no one was talking about.
Yeah, I mean, they're putting stress on their body. I mean, sure, there's plenty of hockey left this year, and we're not like nearing the end of the season or anything. But if this issue were to come up later, you're going to pretty much be exhausting your team right before playoffs, which is like the important time. Wow, that's interesting. I didn't know that it didn't give you salary cap.
So in the shortened season or whatever it did last year, like you got COVID. Boom, call someone up. You have a taxi squad. Boom, good to go. This year, they took it away. I guess imagine it was just magically going to go away. Everyone gets vaccinated. Like it's done. But even though you're vaccinated and you're still going to test positive, you're still going to sit out, but you're not going to get any relief for able to call anyone up. Like it doesn't make any fucking sense.
You should just tell them that they go stub their toe or something while they're in COVID protocol.
No kidding. Yeah, broken toe, LTIR.
Wow.
Same specified time almost. But yeah. So
you mentioned James Neal and you said he was on LTIR, and then you went into the whole COVID talk. So his situation is not COVID related.
Correct. So and that's the frustrating. I mean, that's kind of the shitty thing is. So he is league minimum. So it's like you only replace him with a rookie that doesn't have a bonus laden contract, which is like I think it was like a Dakota Joshua. So it was like, yeah, it's a shit show. And I'm like, the only solution I can think of that works that makes sense for the Blues is Marco Scandella makes a little over $3 million. He's average defenseman at best. Ship him out, get something in return for him. He really doesn't have a future here, I don't think. And then your cap space, call people up you need to call up. But then it's like, oh, you need to trade a player, we'll give you a 7th round pick. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna get nothing for him because they know you're between a rock and a hard place. But yeah, kind of blows, kind of dumb rules. I'm sure we're not the only team that will be affected by this to some degree, but yeah, really, really dumb.
At what point are they going to be able to postpone games? I mean, do they have to, I guess, present their case in front of Bettman or like who decides that?
I have no idea how that works. I have no idea if I'm being honest. And like the Islanders got a couple games postponed, but they had like 8 players test positive or something, I thought, or something nuts where it's like we have like 2 or 3, but we have people injured, but because the people that are out make like it's like massive amounts on the cap hit. Like, what do you do? Like it's
right.
It's nuts. So that's fun. So the Blues, I will be shocked if they win their next game. I think it's against the Panthers again too, but at home. But yeah, you have to play with 17 forwards against arguably the best team in the league up to this point. And then NHL is just kind of like, sorry, deal with it. Not our fault, even though we made the rules and we didn't think this through all the way. So kind of dumb. But either way, that's one topic. Next one, the proverbial throwing of the jersey on the ice up in Vancouver, where the Penguins beat the Canucks 4-1 a couple nights ago. And then I think Brian Dumoulin picks up the jersey, the Penguins player who's in Vancouver, picks up the jersey and throws it back in the stands. So that was really hilarious. But basically it's kind of put like an exclamation point on where the Canucks are. They cleaned house. They fired their head coach, Travis Green. They fired their GM. They brought in Bruce Boudreau, mind you, very first press conference at the end, I think it was a hot mic, wasn't actually what he dropped his first F-bomb. And he's like trying to get up. He's like, oh fuck, like it hurts. It's brutal.
Like his lower back.
Yeah, I don't know. Back or knees. It's pretty fucking funny. But yeah, so they clean house, new GM, fired the coach, fired assistant coach too. Bruce Boudreau's in there. I mean, Canucks are off to a terrible start. Yeah, I mean, makes sense. I mean, it's also frustrating because I think the Canucks kind of got shafted in a sense where they essentially had that bubble scenario where they made it in and they beat the Blues. And it's like, oh, this team's way closer than they are. So we're going to think that they're way closer than they are. And then they just haven't been.
Well, and then they took the Knights to Game 7.
Yeah.
That same bubble
exactly.
Playoff. Yeah, I've always known that they didn't have the proper offense. I mean, they have some studs back there on D, but very boring team, you know, and they're lacking a lot of that talent that it would require to have a deep run. So I don't understand why Canucks fans would be this frustrated and surprised. I guess they're not used to a winning team. They had that one run. What year was that where they went all the way? And is that Boston?
Yeah,
Boston won 2011.
Yeah, I think 2011, 2012. Yeah.
So it's been a good decade since you've had a good team. Like, let's not kid yourselves. Why is this a surprise now to fans?
Well, I mean, they are 8-17. The Kraken are doing better than them. So, I mean, they're not that bad of a team, I don't think, to be 8-17. I don't think, but yeah, I mean, you gotta make a move at that point, I think. And yeah, I mean, there's just, I feel like I just feel like they have good individual players like Brock Besser, Bo Horvat, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, you know, stuff like that, you know, when they play right. But I just don't think they have that team cohesiveness. They don't have that identity that coaches preach all the time, and you kind of see it. So,
hey, what's up, everyone? We're interrupting the Fourth Line Goon Hockey Podcast to talk about one of our awesome sponsors. Big Balls Kickball is St. Louis's premier adult kickball league, bringing you the best game in town since 2007. Veteran owned and operated, they strive to bring out the kid in everyone, and they let you let loose and make new friends on that field. Big Balls welcomes players from all walks of life, and they pride themselves on being one of the most inclusive leagues out there. If that's not enough, they also offer Big Balls apparel. That's right, they sell clothing, all that stuff, and it's rad. Me and Tommy have some. We've been rocking them. They go back with the retro designs, back to the 90s, back to your childhood, all of that. So be sure to go and check out Big Balls Kickball at www.stlbigballs.com.
Yeah, that happens. And then obviously the flip side, I think I said his name, Alain Vigneault of the Flyers. He got canned, and they replaced him with Blues legend and thankful because you got fired coach Mike Yeo to win us the Stanley Cup. So yeah, Mike Yeo is now the coach.
They just promoted him.
I think so. I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, because he was an assistant coach before, and I thought that was a good fit for him. I mean, I don't know what kind of turnaround they're expecting to get from him. As you know, being a Blues fan, very frustrating. His coaching was very questionable. There were a few moments where I felt like he's so unproven, right? Like he doesn't really have much of a winning. I don't know what his record is.
He's been good as an assistant coach. Like,
right.
I mean, he won a cup with Pittsburgh as an assistant coach, but like, I don't know, whenever it comes to actual head coaching job, for whatever reason, it doesn't work out. I mean, same can be said for Bruce Boudreau with all his Game 7, you know, choke jobs and whatnot. Granted, he finally broke through a couple of years ago, but yeah, I don't get it. I mean, also a side topic is like, I just don't understand how it's like you go through all of these times of like, you have a head coach and he gets fired, then he finds another job, then he gets fired, then he finds another job, then he gets fired. But we don't ever want to bring in someone brand new to be a head coach. There's like all of these head coaches that are just sitting on the sidelines, and it's like, oh, let's not promote someone from within, or let's not go and give, you know, a fresh blood person who like maybe like coach of the year in the AHL or something like that a chance. Like, let's go to the old barn and pick up Mike Yeo and Bruce Boudreau, guys who are okay and don't really have a proven pedigree. I mean, like they win, but they don't like win the cup.
Right.
They don't have that pedigree of being a championship caliber coach. And I was like, I don't understand that. That's one thing I don't get whatsoever.
You know, it's interesting you say that because I feel like they bring these guys in as a safety net. They know that they can do well enough to keep the team afloat, but they're not good enough to push to that next level. And maybe they're not worried about winning the championship. Maybe some of these teams are actually just worried about keeping fans interested and like having winning seasons, I guess. I don't know.
And that's what's interesting is because it's like, look at what the Blues did to a degree. Granted, I think he coached prior, but not a whole lot like Craig Berube. Like the Blues just canned Mike Yeo, Craig Berube, boom, you win a cup after being the shittiest team in the league. Like that's probably a 1 in a million scenario, but like it happens. But like I just don't understand. These guys are getting older, their philosophies aren't changing, the game's getting faster, and they want to implement these age-old ideas that don't align and being successful, I feel like. And again, no offense to like your boy Gerard Gallant. And I mean, that's something what happened to Vegas to a degree before he got canned. And then granted, the Rangers are doing good right now, but I just don't think it's a long-term recipe for success. And I mean, why you got to give the same, 50 white guys, in the NHL, the same exact job over and over and over and over again, when there's plenty of other people out there that I'm sure if given an opportunity can do a decent job. That's my take.
Right. If they had something to bring to the plate, another team would have snatched him up already as it is.
Yeah.
It's the only one that I would give another shot to that his name has been tossed around, obviously, is Tortorella. I mean, the fact that, he did win a cup, right? He won a cup.
He's won coach of the year twice.
Yeah, so he has proven to a certain degree, and his name has been popping up all over the place. He's probably in a situation where he's like, I'm not going to coach unless it's the right team. Because I think we even talked about it. We thought he was going to go to Seattle. Now his name's being kicked around for Chicago, and it's like he probably has been hit up by these people, and he laughs it off because he doesn't want to deal with that shit. So yeah, if these guys are answering these calls and they're like jumping at the opportunity, then they're probably not highly sought after, and there's a reason for that. And like you said, some new blood is the way to go. I think that would be fun to shake it up. But once again, I think that these teams are worried about keeping people interested. I think that might have been a philosophy for the longest time in Vegas, as well as now there's expectations for them to win the President's Trophy, to win their division, to win the conference. And once you have these expectations, you look at them as milestones instead of looking at them as stepping stones for where you need to be, which is ultimately the cup. If you don't win the cup, you don't got shit. And unfortunately, fans don't really see that. They just want to spend the money and go see a winning game or a winning team rather, and actually see some results, but they don't look at it as the whole big picture, I feel like. So I think that maybe they decided to bring Yao in because or promote him, and rather because he's been in the show before. He was quote unquote this close to coaching a team to winning the Stanley Cup, even though he really had nothing to do with it. He was sitting in the back just like he was prior. It's interesting. I don't think it's going to change anything around. The Flyers need to be whipped into shape. And they also have some issues with their team getting older. They really need to pull together and get some younger guys, some good draft picks going. I feel like to have some promise there. They're almost in a rebuild, but like you don't really look at it that way because they have all the pieces you would think, but with Carter Hart shitting the bed, Claude Giroux getting another year older, they're not the team they were.
Yeah, I agree. And then on top of that, it's the other, I guess, hot seat in the NHL is the Islanders. Hold
on. Before we start, can we talk about how Ryan Whitney probably jinxed them? Because did you see before the season even started, he said, you can quote me, this is the year the Islanders win the cup. And I was like, what the hell is he saying? What did they do to be any better? And now I feel like he was almost trolling everybody because they're so bad.
Yeah, it's brutal. Yeah,
11-0, right? They went 11. They're 0-11. Sorry,
yeah, they're like 0-8-3 or something, 0-7-4, something like that. And they're 11, and again, there's a couple things you look at, right? What they had the first was it 11 games on the road in a row, or 13 games in a row on the row, while their new stadium got finished. Like, okay, they play a lot of road hockey, right? And they get ravaged with COVID and like people not being able to do as much and like getting in sync and like all this stuff. It just is one thing after another, I feel like, for them. And yeah, I mean, do you blame the coach? Maybe to some degree. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Barry Trotz also won a cup, 2-3 years ago. Like, it's not like he's unproven, and he's taking the Islanders deep in the playoffs too, against good teams, mind you. So yeah, what do you do? I mean, are they last in the East? I know they're definitely last in their division. Or does the Senators?
If they're Senators are pretty bad.
Senators, Canadiens, Sabres, and then Islanders. So yeah, I mean, you don't expect the Islanders to be like bottom four whatsoever. But yeah, I mean,
do you think teams have figured their system out? I mean, because they've been playing Islanders hockey now, and it's been successful season after season, but not successful enough. But once teams figure out what you're doing and kind of work around it, find your weaknesses, and you haven't really done anything to change up your team at all or build off of your foundation, it's kind of hard to expect different results. I feel like teams might have just figured them out.
I mean, yeah, to a certain degree, you could say that, right? I mean, the flip side too is like you look at like someone like the Capitals, where it's like they are always stacked and like they'd always run like the Penguins and they lose, and it's like, fuck, here we go again, and then finally they break through and they win the whole thing. But it's just like, yeah, I mean, at what point do you see what's going on here? It's just like, yeah, I mean, I just think of the situation where they've just not been in a good spot. Things have been jumbled. Things have just not clicked for them. And I think like even last night, I think they had a good game against the Blackhawks, but then like they just couldn't finish. And then they got to a shootout and they lost in the shootout just to add another loss on their belt. But yeah, I mean, there's so much you can do. I feel
they don't really have much firepower either. And when your stud guys aren't producing like they probably should, which Barzal's not horrible. He's 13 points in 20 games, but I mean, he's not like there. He's not at that superstar level where he's averaging a goal every other game, a point a game. Like you can't have any holes, or as they would say, chinks in your armor if you're playing boring shutdown hockey. If you're not getting those 2 goals a night, then you're screwed.
And what if I told you that about a quarter way to the season that the New York Islanders would have the worst offense in hockey? Would you believe that? Because they're not even averaging 2 goals a game.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like they're not. If their defense isn't holding up, they're not playing that shutdown defense. If teams have figured them out, their goaltending hasn't been amazing, and they're not getting the goals. I mean,
that's the crazy thing, right? Is like from a goal differential standpoint, they're basically top 5 in the league in goals allowed, top 6, but they just don't have offense. They have no firepower, and things just aren't clicking. Like, yeah, I mean, at what point do you just sit there and be like, all right, what do we do? Like, yeah, I mean, you literally have 2 guys 20 games into the season that have double-digit points, and that's Barzal and and like everyone else has 7 or less, which is mind-boggling.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Actually, it's pretty crazy. These guys that were seemingly having pretty damn good years, I feel like, last season, such as Pajot, Clutterbuck, Joshua Bailey. You got Kyle Palmieri that didn't they just sign him to an extension?
Yeah, I believe so.
And these guys, everybody I just listed basically has 1 goal.
Well, let me ask you this. So blindly speaking, if I tell you it's a goalie in the NHL that started, I believe, 14 or 15 games, has a goals against of 2.49 and a save percentage of 92.5, you're probably thinking he's doing pretty good, right? No, that's Ilya Sorokin of the Islanders, and he's 5-10.
Right.
Like, it's nuts. So anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems to me like I said that teams have figured it out, and if you're not getting those goals up front, then you're going to have that drought, and you're not going to really you're not going to pull the wins out. You're not going to get the greasy wins. I feel like you don't have.
That's what they have to have.
You have to do that, and that's what we saw Vegas has been being injured half the year, and they're finding these ways to just kind of to win games, 3-2, 4-3. Like you just have to have the offensive talent, and when that goes on a drought, which we've seen many teams do in the postseason, definitely not so much in the regular season as we're seeing from the Islanders. Yeah, it's definitely not good to be an Islanders fan right now. It's a bummer, especially like you said with the new arena.
Yep.
So hopefully they turn it around. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about something that I think is bullshit. I was actually just talking about this with Lo earlier. The fact that Tuukka Rask is practicing with the Boston Bruins again, and that there's some sort of e-bug contract that they had to sign in order for him to practice with the team. Because I was like, wait a minute. If he doesn't have a contract, and there's been talk about him coming back at some point through the season, basically signing a league minimum team-friendly deal.
Yeah.
It seems sketchy to me that there's not something laid out, but she said that she believes there's some sort of e-bug contract situation going on. But yeah, I mean, Markstrom's just not panning out to be the hot new piece of ass that the Bruins were hoping he would be. Swayman is kind of proving that he's not developed enough to be the starting goaltender that they were hoping as well, and now they're kind of crawling back to old Tuukka. What's your take on that?
I mean, yeah, he's a free agent. He had off-season hip surgery, right? So, like, I mean, what team is going to say, you know what, let me go and sign this, how old is he? 30-something?
He's not that bad. I think it was like 34.
34, yeah, 34-year-old goaltender coming off of a hip surgery. Like, I don't think anyone's going to do that. And let alone he wouldn't pass a physical, so I don't think he'd be able to sign anyway.
Yeah. Well, he already said he wouldn't go anywhere anyways.
Yeah, I mean that's his choice, right? So, I mean, yeah, I mean, if that's where things do work out, I mean, it's like a similar situation. Yeah, just like being, yeah, like imagine like Martin Brodeur just happened to suit up for an emergency backup goalie again. Like, I mean, you can do whatever you want at that point. Like, their backup goalie actually got sick, so it made sense. And like, he wasn't gonna. There's no way he's gonna play. He's still like, I think like 4, 5, 6 weeks out at least before he's actually fully recovered. So, I think it's just more like get around the boys, see if you miss it, see if so that itch, and maybe we talk in a few weeks and figure something out. Who knows, right? I think that's what it is. And like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, especially full knowing like, if this is the only team I'm going to play for, what's the harm? I don't know.
So the big question is then, do you see Tuukka Rask strapping on those pads and wearing a bee sweater this year?
I mean, I think it comes down to how, well, I guess in short, yes, but also what that looks like in terms of playing time, because you don't really know what you're getting in a guy coming off of hip surgery and not having a training camp. You probably throw him on a conditioning stint or something, maybe, I guess. But I mean, even at that point, like, I mean, the Bruins are a fringe team as it is. It's really going to put you over the hump, and in doing so, you're going to hinder if you still think Swayman is the guy, right? You're going to hinder his development and maybe his confidence by inserting Tuukka back in and him take over your job. Like, this old fucking guy has come up hip surgery and now I'm the backup goalie. Like, I think it'd suck. But maybe. I mean, at this point, they're not in the playoffs. So, I mean, it's still a month from now. I mean, you could probably even push it to say, you know, mid-January, he's actually skating with the team. And then if assuming the Olympics happen, you get into the Olympics, you have more time to recover. And then after the Olympics, maybe you sign him. I mean, I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of that makes sense, but we'll see.
So you're thinking if the Bruins brought back Tuukka Rask, it would be more of a backup situation still to Markstrom. It wouldn't be trade Markstrom, get that cap space, and go out and sign a new player.
I mean, I don't think so personally, especially if he's going to be on a minimum deal, and especially if it's like, hey, he's going to come back next year, even because again, like he's early to mid 30s. Like, it's not like he's, you know, a super, super old man. It's just, you don't know what you're getting coming off of that surgery. I feel like
he'll be 35 in March. I just looked it up. Yeah. So yeah. So I guess you would send Swayman down. I'm imagining he's on some sort of 2-way contract, or would you have to send him through waivers potentially, which would be scary. I mean,
Also, you said Markstrom like 4 times. I was like, hang on, am I missing something? I think you mean Olmark.
Allmark. Shit. Yeah,
Allmark. I was like, hold on. I know that
I knew it was one of those marks, one of those Mark guys. Yeah, Allmark, correct. And he came from the Sabres, correct?
Yeah. But I mean, that's the thing though, too, is like realistically speaking, I mean, it's up to you. I mean, you could roll 3 goalies. If you say you signed a prorated like league minimum deal, you'd have the cap space. Even like a 1.5 mil deal, you'd probably have the cap space.
So you'd bring him in as kind of like a morale move, I guess, for the locker room.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, again, I don't think Olmark's playing bad by any means. I don't think Swayman is, of course, living up to the hype as everyone expected him to. I mean, he's still playing good too, though. Like both goalies aren't playing bad. I just don't think the team. I think there's not who people expect the Bruins to be. Quite honestly, like they're just aging a bit more, and they're slowly getting more and more a step behind. I think as a whole, being 12-8-1, like. It's not going to cut it in the East, but we'll see how it plays out. I mean, I definitely see him coming back and playing some games. I mean, maybe he can get to a point where he gets in a groove and the Bruins sneak in, and you have him a Tuukka Rask in the playoffs who has never won anything in the playoffs, isn't considered a clutch goalie. I don't know if you want to go that route, but then the other options are Swayman and Olmark. Like, I don't know. That's going to be tough.
You're kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario. And they proven last year that when they rode Tuukka while he was injured, a lot of people felt like Swayman would have been the right move in the postseason. He's getting older. We'll see if he's going to sign a league minimum deal and they have the cap space. And as you said, have 3 goalies with them and kind of more of a morale boost for the team. I guess it couldn't hurt.
I mean, that's the thing though, is like Swayman's only 23. So if you bring him back, you got to put Swayman in the AHL. You got to let him play games. Like you can't just have that guy right on the bench. So I mean, that's probably what you look at. But then you get Olmark for 3 more years after this one.
Right.
So there's a lot to figure out.
They definitely signed Olmark thinking that Tuukka wasn't coming back. At least, or they didn't have any sort of faith in him being the starting goaltender anymore, or faith in Swayman being a solid number 1 option currently.
Listen up, goons. Gotta interrupt the podcast to talk about another one of our amazing sponsors, Shortside Co., a hockey apparel and accessory company. Established in 2020, Shortside is a Minnesota-based company with all 4 owners having a combined 25 years of professional hockey experience. All of their tape is made in the USA, tested and certified by NHL players, including Nate Schmidt. We had him on the podcast, so if you haven't listened to that episode, go back and check it out. He's a beauty. All of their products are created by players, for players. Going shortside is a lifestyle. But why go shortside? Well, scoring goals is their passion. There are many variables that come into play in order to score a goal high on the short side, but it all starts with a perfectly executed tape job. After scoring goals in every league from mites to the NHL, they are confident that their product will be a staple in any locker room. For individuals and organizations looking to join the Shortside community, go to www.goshortside.com.
Recently, Vegas Golden Knights goaltender Robin Lehner took to social media, I believe it was Twitter, to let everyone know that he is opted out of participation with Team Sweden for the upcoming Olympics, citing mental health concerns. It's no surprise here, I feel like, just because he wasn't very happy with the bubble situation. He wasn't happy with the restrictions that followed when they were trying to do COVID protocol. He was very vocal about that. And to be honest with you, I think a lot of people are nervous with the concept of sending their players overseas right now for weeks at a time. And they could get sick on top of just the typical injury situation.
Well, do you know what the situation is if you were to contract COVID in China, what you have to do?
Yeah, you fill me in. It's something crazy, right?
It's like 3-week lockdown.
Yeah.
So like imagine being in China for 3 weeks like alone.
Right.
Does not sound fun. No offense to anyone who's, an Asian or Chinese heel. It's just like being in a foreign country in a language you don't speak, with a language barrier, like you're by yourself.
away from your family
Yeah,
again.
like what do you do? Like hour, like whole half day, like time difference apart. Like, and I get it. Yeah, that's a nightmare.
We're going to see a lot of players do that. I feel like it sucks because we're finally going to get the NHL in the Olympics. We were going to see some fun hockey. Well, hopefully, if everything goes well. But honestly, man, it's like problem after problem after problem. It's like a layered cake of bullshit. And at this point, you have to wonder, is it worth it for these guys to risk not only their own health, like their physical health, then their own mental health. Now you're also risking your team because if you're out of commission for 3 weeks, right out of All-Star break, and now you got to make a push for the playoffs, it's not a good idea all around. As much as I hate to say it, keeping your team intact here during this crisis that we've got going on with all the health concerns seems like the move. And I'm sure all the owners, including Bettman, are kind of hoping for some sort of I guess the word wouldn't be lockdown, but just rejection as far as participation goes with the Olympics.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be real interesting to see. I think it's gonna come down to who's willing to do it and who won't. But yeah, like you said, I mean, imagine like just hypothetically speaking again, like USA Canada, right? Goes to a gold medal game, and let's say you play in that game the next day. It's like, oh yeah, you got COVID, you can't leave. And it's like right as the break ends, and that's like, cool, I got to miss like 12, 13 games of hockey while my team's pushing for the playoffs. Like, that sucks. And then at that point, like, hypothetically speaking, if that happens, again, going back to what we first talked about, do you get cap relief at that point because someone's out for 3 weeks because they're in China, or do you not? Like, there's just so much bullshit around this that the rules are dumb. The NHL did a terrible job with this year, I think, when it comes to how they presented these COVID rules. And they're stating it as, oh, you're sick, so you don't get relief. But I don't know any flu that's kept the player out for a week and a half. I don't know any food poisoning that's kept the player out for a week and a half. Like, it's not the same. And
well, not to mention, what if they just said upper body? You know, oh, they're out with upper body, and it's like just because they failed a COVID test doesn't mean anything. It could be an upper respiratory infection. It could be a horrible cough, flu-like symptoms, any of that stuff that we were dealing with before. I'm sure it'd all be under the whole cap relief situation if you're ill. I mean, that's crazy, unfortunate. And what we're going to get is, if any participation in the Olympics, it's going to be a half-ass one where guys are concerned about traveling, leaving their families, leaving their teams.
It's gonna be an all-star game Olympics. That's how I see it. Because all these guys that would opt out of the Olympic or the all-star game, you're gonna see the same big guys probably opting out of the Olympics. And it's like, cool, now we're gonna watch the best third and fourth liners of America and the best and third and fourth liners of Russia and Canada, and or maybe I mean, I feel like KHLers will say fuck it. I mean, I think Russia, if this happens, I think Russia will win gold. I really do.
Yeah, that's a solid take for sure. All right, so Jack Eichel, last episode we really talked about his return to play, but now he's actually skating, which is awesome. It's not really too much to talk about other than the fact that he's recovering really quickly. Actually, there is one thing to talk about, which I think is awesome. I believe it was Tyler Johnson, another player, went and got the exact same surgery that Eichel got. And man, if that's a quick recovery, they're both success stories, then that is a game changer as far as I'm concerned. And that
had to be like a scapegoat for the league to make this happen. Like, oh, no one's done it before, so you can't do it. Oh, cool, it works. Everyone go do it. Like it.
Right.
Stupid.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, it's a positive thing because they're going to be moving in a more positive direction and letting these players have a word in what their desired medications might be to, or anything to get them back to healthy status. So he's skating again. He looks good. He said he could do everything but take contact, which is almost just insane. Like, he's like, oh yeah, like my hands are back. My speed's back. I'm able to, you know, take my corners and great, but I just can't take contact. It's like, holy shit, dude, you just had spinal surgery a month ago at this point, and now you're already basically saying you're ready to go if it wasn't as like an aggressive sport. I know that there's a little bit of bullshit in all of this, probably some smoke being blown up people's ass, but some writers even saying on Twitter that they feel like this surgery is going to improve the way he was playing because he's been struggling with this pain and this agony for quite some time. But you just love to see it, and I think that him getting the surgery opened the door for other players to get the relief that they need and the proper medical attention desired.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's just, it'd be nice to see him on the ice again, I think for sure. I just wonder what your take of it is. Like, I feel like you want him on the ice, but you don't, like, from a fan's perspective, you want him on the ice, but you don't want him on the ice for like 2-3 more months.
Like, well, yeah. I mean, when it comes to that, I don't get paid enough money to have an opinion on what it would be like to be a GM that has to juggle the salary cap situation, because that's crazy. Actually, to be honest with you, excuse me, I was thinking about this the other day. It's kind of messed up that your salary cap doesn't stay off for the remainder of the year. Like, if I have a $10 million player, right, and he was ill or injured for 40% of the year, when he comes back, I should only be responsible for $6 million of his cap, in my opinion. Like, I don't get.
Well, I mean, theoretically you are, though. When they come back, I believe the prorated portion is going to hit. No.
Yeah. So so once again, I'm not.
But like that's the thing, though, is like, let's say Jack Eichel, comes back exactly halfway through the year, right? That's $5 million salary. But like, just looking at a cap friendly, right? It's not like you can be like, oh, Alec Martinez makes $5.2 million. Let me just ship him off. Like, no, his contract is also prorated, even though it's prorated. It's
right.
Not. Like,
yeah, it's definitely some juggling that a lot of suits are going to have to do to pull it off. It's going to be interesting, to say the least. I try not to think about it, to be honest with you, because the team's going to change probably once more at least, if not twice again at trade deadline. I think he'll come back before trade deadline, which I believe is in April this year.
End of March, early April, something like that. Yeah.
And he'll come back before then. So you're going to have to make a change when he comes back. And then you're going to look at your salary cap and who's been injured during that time period, and then try to make a move at deadline to improve your team, probably picking up somebody that's not as good as who you had to ship out to get Jack Eichel in the first place. It's interesting. It's crazy to make all these moves. My hope is that they're going to come back next season much stronger with a more presentable idea of what their identity is as a team, and that anything they can pull off this year is just kind of extra. But once again, I don't know if the ins and outs of salary cap management. It seems like a giant headache as far as that's concerned.
So real quick on that, looking at the cap situation, the only really big guy you can ship out, I feel like, is Riley Smith. Do you think if he's back before trade deadline, I think Riley Smith's gone? He makes $5 million a year. It's his last year before his UFA.
Yeah. So
he's an assistant captain.
Okay, so if I'm the GM, right, and I don't know how many times the GM actually has conversations with their players, which I get, actually, to reference what we were talking about, Moneyball. Yeah. Brad Pitt talks about that. He said, I won't build a personal
relationship
with my players, because when I cut them, that's going to be an interesting situation that I'm going to have to invest emotional interest in when we're having. Yeah. If I am the GM of said hockey team and I have to make a move, I would love to go and talk to Riley Smith and pick his brain. Are they going to do that? Probably not, which is why they're the GMs and I'm not. But I would sit him down and say, look, your contract's up. What's more important to you? Do you want to stay in Vegas and win a cup, or are you going to go for a paycheck? Shoot it straight. Look me right in the eyes, because you know what our cap is. We're not going to be able to give you a raise. It's just not going to happen. Yeah. You're going to have to take a pay cut to be on this team. And depending on what his answer is, that's what I would do. I would move forward, moving him out if he's not wanting to stay with the team the following year, or I would do my best to keep him in the roster, knowing that we have some sort of handshake deal. Actually, I guess it's not even a handshake. You could get him an extension now.
Yeah.
So I would in theory offer him a lower extension that could fit under our cap.
Well, that's the problem. Where does that come into play? Like this year, you can't activate Jack Eichel, I think, without moving Riley Smith.
Well, moving somebody, I wouldn't want to move Riley Smith. If Smith is willing to sign basically the same deal Perron did, which I believe was like a 4x4,
Yeah.
I would sign that all day, every day, and I'd keep him, and I'd move somebody else. But I don't want any of them to leave.
Of course.
But that's the reality of sports, is that you got to make business calls, and I think they know that. They're all ready for it. If anything, Riley Smith might already be ready for it. I feel like Alex Tuck was. I feel like they had that conversation with him because he looked way too happy to be in Buffalo. I know he's from upstate New York, but come on. Like, he had months to sit on that. He knew. He got his surgery. He knew what the salary cap was. If Riley Smith wants to go out and get a big payday, he's like, hey, guys, loved playing in Vegas, but guess what? This is going to be my last contract I signed. I want to go do what James Neal did and get paid. Then no harm, no foul. But if he's like, hey, man, I'll work with you. Yep. I'd love to work with him. I'd love to keep him. So that leads us to our next topic, which is the exact opposite. Let's go rivals with this. Evander fucking Kane, which is, he's been a topic on this podcast many times in the past. He's obviously been all over Twitter sphere when it comes to hockey talk. So homie was put on waivers with intention of reassignment to the Barracudas, which is their AHL affiliate. They were kind of hoping someone would swoop him up. We knew he wasn't going to get picked up. So, yeah, I guess he's playing in the AHL right now.
Yeah, he is with the Barracudas at this point.
Wow. I wonder how that's going.
I looked it up, actually. Huh?
Yeah, that's interesting. I want to know. They said, his agent said that he had every intention of reporting and being a stand-up player.
He did a press conference there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's reported. There's no question about it. Is he playing? I guess that's a different question. So I'm trying to figure out.
They're also in talks with many teams in which they said that the Sharks would be responsible for half of his salary.
You have him on your roster for 3 more fucking years.
At $7 million, right? 7.5, something like that.
I think it's like 7 or 7.5. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I thought that was a shitty contract to begin with. And then just to be responsible for half that for the next, 4 years, but they spread that out over a longer period of time usually. So it's like,
I mean, you buy him out, yeah.
Oh, the buyout, but not salary retention. Okay. So yeah, and I know that they were in talks with the Canucks. The Coyotes was another team. There were like all these like lower fringe teams that were willing to, I guess, take a chance on him for 3.5, because why the hell not? I mean, he had a career year last year.
Yeah, agreed. And I mean, he really, like, he has nothing to lose, because like he's fortunate enough to have the San Jose. It's like similar to Vegas, where they have their minor league team in San Jose. So like he gets sent down, he doesn't have to move. He doesn't have to relocate. He doesn't have to go to like Dallas or like the Blues, like going to Boston or anything like that. He literally is like, okay, I just drive to a different facility. No big deal. Like, I play with some of these guys, some of these prospects or whatever. Like, I would do that. But yeah, I don't think he's reported. I don't think he's played yet, though, interestingly enough.
That's what I was just looking at. Probably just because
that's right. He had the suspension for the fax card.
Oh, I thought that was up. You can move him during a suspension? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, you can move him up and down. Yeah, like you can.
Oh, see, here I was thinking he served the 21 games.
I think that just ended recently, though. Yeah, I think it just ended like last week or like this week or something. So, yeah, we'll see. But there's also obviously the whole thing with his wife and whatnot, which, as shitty as it is to say, a lot of leagues will overlook that while the investigation is ongoing.
Yeah. My word is that he does find another team, especially at 3.5 million. I mean, the Canes took a chance on D'Angelo, and he was, a steaming pile of shit as far as being vocal and aggressive towards fans and just being like just a bad media eyesore, I feel like. And then Evander Kane is even worse than that, but I feel like, it's apples and oranges here. They're both shitty people that can play good hockey. And
but
teams are willing to take a chance on it, then I guess they will.
Well, the other issue though is he has a very heavily, I think, no trade clause where I think it's like crazy. Like it's like if he can only trade like a couple teams or something. Yeah. So if the Sharks are like, hey, we want to trade you, he's like, okay, you can trade me to team 1, team 2, and team 3. No one else.
Yeah.
So like you only have 3 teams, and like if you're getting a phone call, like, oh, cool, I'm one of 2. Well, there's only 2 other teams who might be competing for this guy. Like I'm not gonna get in a bidding war. Like it's Evander Kane. I don't think anyone really wants him, but it's just like, good luck. I feel like 3 teams, and he can say no to whoever else. He's guaranteed to get paid still, and
his ego's too big. His ego's too big. He ain't gonna say no. Like he doesn't care. The money he definitely does care about, but he also likes to be in the spotlight. And he's gonna want to play hockey. He'll take any team that.
But that's what I mean. He's still gonna get $7 million in the AHL. Like he's not gonna stay there, but he's gonna get paid the same way he plays in the AHL. He plays the NHL. But I don't know where the hell he's gonna go.
Highest paid Barracuda player in the history of the team, right?
Probably highest paid AHLer in quite some time too.
Hey, I wouldn't care if I never saw Evander Kane play a game again, but like I'm pretty sure we will. That's just the reality of it. So yeah, enough talking about that shithead.
Oh, real quick, I was just reading this. Apparently, of all news outlets, TMZ posted something that he got a judge to order his restraining order against his wife officially. She posted like a video of like pointing a gun at him or something, or she did it, I don't know. But yeah, well, I guess no, I think it was Kane posted, like pointed at her, but I'm sorry, yeah, so I don't know,
just domestic abuse. It's just gross, man. And I really hope the best for honestly both of them. I hope he gets help, and I hope she gets help, and I hope that they're happy moving forward. But the problem is he is letting it reflect his teammates. And the big problem was the fake vax card, because you're putting your teammates at health risk. I mean, the drama is one thing. I mean, that's not healthy for anybody involved at all. But the guy has just really got to take a step back and fix his life before he can even have the privilege of playing in the NHL, as far as I'm concerned.
All right, I got to interrupt the podcast to talk about another one of our amazing sponsors. That's right, Black Heart Inc. is not only a tattoo brand, but a culture in itself. Established since 2021, right here in Las Vegas, Nevada, Black Heart provides the highest in quality and luxury in custom body art. Black Heart Inc. is a tattoo shop like no other around the Las Vegas area. And ever since I moved here, I've been searching around. So trust me, there's some quality work going out of this shop, providing acceptance of all walks of life through the art, the communication of the image that displays or conveys a statement. It can be very powerful. Through art and tattoos, Black Heart Inc. will continue to defy the status quo, not just now, but for years to come. Make sure you check them out at www.blackheartinc702.com. If you mention the Fourth Line Goon Hockey Podcast, you can get $60 Halloween flash tattoos. That's right, $60 gets you a creepy new tattoo this October. They can do same-day appointments, local and group discounts. They make sure they honor the military. And if you go in and you mention the Fourth Line Goon Hockey Podcast and that you're a VGK fan, they will do a $100 flash tattoo of a Vegas Golden Knights logo. That's right, a $100 flash tattoo of a Vegas Golden Knights logo. I got one myself on my arm. So make sure you guys check it out, www.blackheartinc702.com.
So Jack Hughes signed a massive extension immediately following his injury that he was dealing with. That's 8 years, $64 million. That's an $8 million AAV. And that puts him at the mayor of overpaid city as far as I'm concerned, but I'll give you the reins to talk about what you feel about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, I mean, the guy is, expected to be elite. It's a number 1 overall pick. He's 20 years old. I think this is his 3rd year, no? So this is actually his last year of his entry-level contract. He hasn't put up more than anything in the shortened season of like a little bit more than a half point per game, but he's also been playing on the Devils. Devils haven't been great. So he's been injured this year. Right when he comes back from injury, he signs 8x8. It's a gamble. It's a little bit of a gamble, right? Like the kid's only 20. He's still figuring it out. Like give him some time, right? And the flip side is if there's a team that can take that risk right now, it's the Devils.
Yeah.
Like, they have 10 million cap space at the moment. It'll be I think 2 next year, probably after they sign him. It'll probably be the same because Subban's out the door. There's 9 million off the books. There's your extension.
Right. I was just gonna say, how does a team like the Devils still have 10 million in cap space when they have Dougie Hamilton and PK Subban on their team, which is like 20 million tied up just in one D pair as it is.
Exactly. No kidding. So
yeah, it's just a small sample size, and it's crazy to me that they were forced to make that kind of deal, I guess, just because they had the short. Not forced to, but I mean, the time's up. As you said, he's been in the league now for 3 years, which is freaking insane. Like he's going to be done with this entry level deal.
I'm doing a bridge deal. You have RFA rights. Like no one's gonna make an offer to that guy and lose 4 first-round picks. No one's gonna do that.
Right.
No one has the cap space to do that. That's good. So there's no way in hell that happens.
Well, so the question though, does he wind up being the stud? Do you see it, or do you think this is going to be a contract that we're laughing about in a couple of years?
I just don't. Honestly, I don't think I've watched enough Devils hockey to really have a say on that. Quite honestly, that and he's played barely equivalent of a season and a half's worth of hockey yet in professional NHL hockey in his career. Professional hockey outside of 18 and under teams, national juniors, all that stuff.
Someone shared. I saw an image on Twitter of his whole career, his stats of his whole career, and they were like, "Wow, he's really been mediocre this entire time." And he went first overall, and now he's getting an 8x8, and it's just madness. So they see something that we don't, I guess. I mean, I don't know. They're the scouts. They're the NHL. They know what they're looking for.
I mean, you look at it. Another way to look at it too is like you look at say like I think the perfect comparison right now to a degree is like Trevor Zegras. Like they're both 20. They're both these like 6 foot, possibly slightly under 6 foot, like 180-pound kids. Like one has had an extra year as a first round pick and has a lot of pressure. The other got picked like, what was it, 4th or 5th overall or something? Like I'm good, like yeah, I'm cool, whatever. And like Zegras is doing pretty solid. He's a point per game player, 20 years old, and like you look at it as like that, and it's like, okay, well, this guy didn't have the pressure. This guy also hasn't been injured. This guy, whatever the case may be, right? I mean, maybe the Ducks took a better approach to it, where it's like, oh, you're a first round pick, you're guaranteed a spot on the NHL roster, versus like we're gonna bounce you between the NHL and NHL, or maybe like top line minutes in the NHL, give you like third line minutes when you come to the NHL, bounce you back and forth for the first year. Boom, now you're back. Now you're playing the NHL. Like, go for it.
Development, proper development. It makes sense. And they're both shitty teams. In theory, the Ducks are going on kind of a tear this year, but they're on paper, they're both young, inexperienced, and lack a lot of things that you need to be a contending team.
Agreed.
And Zegras is fun to watch. He's tried that between the legs goal like a million times so far this year, but I guess the fact that he's able to allow himself that much time and space to be able to try to pull off these highlight reel goals is kind of impressive on its own.
I just like the thing that pisses me off about that guy is like, okay, he's 20 years old, but it's like he's trying to do these showboat goals where it's like I've seen him do it like 2 or 3 times now, and literally instead of going between the legs, if he just goes forehand, backhand, he has a whole fucking net to shoot at.
Right.
Like, what are you doing? Like, I don't get it.
Yes. I always say that stat sheets don't have pictures. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you're not going to remember the highlight reel goals. You're just going to look and go, oh, this asshole scored this many goals. I mean, that's
exact point. Like, if I were to ask you, like, what was goal of the year 2 years ago?
No.
You don't fucking know. Yeah. I don't fucking know. Like, who cares?
Right. Yeah, I mean, these kids are getting paydays. I mean, if you really think about it, Nick Suzuki got a similar contract, and he was like 17th overall. Granted, he did have a good postseason, and we haven't really seen a postseason. Actually, you haven't seen a postseason with Jack Hughes in it. So who knows? I guess only time will tell on that one. So the last thing we should talk about before we get to questions is the obvious Lemieux Kachuk rivalry that happened. Well, that's been happening through many generations, that was very interesting to me to learn about their dad and their dads going at it many years, and then his brother going at it with him. It's just insane. But the long and short of it, if you haven't been up to date, which I'm sure you have, yeah, nod, couple bites. Yeah, exactly. Imagine getting bit multiple times, if you watch the video, he's going at it like it's a cheesy gordita crunch and it's 3:00 in the morning and he's tanked. Like, it's just crazy. Yeah, well, shit. Yeah. I mean, I was like Smeagol with like a raw fish in the corner, like salivating. I mean, he went at it, man. Like, it was next level. Bit at him. He drew blood. But what's funny is the bite that drew blood isn't even the one that got him the suspension.
Yep.
The suspension was the one that they got the camera angle where they saw him get his opposing hand. So he bit both of his hands. Yep. I mean, there's no room in hockey for that. As much as I like watching the drama and seeing the rivalry unfold, I think 5 games is not enough. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I think about it, and it's like thinking it from a perspective of, it's like, you know, you get in a fight with someone you just don't like, and like you're going out on the ground, you know, hands in someone's face or whatever. Like, at least me personally, I can't ever think of a time where I'm going to be like, oh, this guy's hand's like right here, let me just fucking bite him. Like, I want to like get this shit off my face. I don't want it in my mouth, let alone on my face. Like, get away from me. Like, I don't know. I mean, I get things get heated, and maybe just, I don't know, some predatory instinct comes over and just want to bite whatever's in your mouth. Like, I don't know. Like, that doesn't seem rational to me. But
if you're defending yourself, yes. Yeah. But he was on top of Kachuk. It wasn't like Kachuk
at that point, they were like side by side. They weren't like on top of each other to some degree. So
yeah, he was going at Kachuk. Kachuk was trying to tap out, if anything. It wasn't like Kachuk was pushing his face into the ice and he bit at him because he was like forcing his head down. No, he was trying to get him off of him. And yeah, it's disgusting. And I mean, in a world of COVID and we're excited to have hockey again, and these players are quarantining and having to wear masks and get vaccinated, I don't think that that's the right idea right now. I mean, I'm not saying you can, you know, transmit COVID necessarily through blood, but I mean, that's not good. I mean, it's a weak move, man. Like, I wish they would have just dropped gloves and had it over with. But that's another problem too, right? You got the refs trying to break it up. And had they just stepped back and let these two duke it out, they wouldn't have been trying to get at each other and hugging it out on the ice and biting at each other. So that's just my 2 cents. 5 games is not enough. I was fully expected to see, you know, somewhere in the ballpark of at least 10, especially if those two have had a past, and Lemieux's not necessarily the cleanest player. Yeah, I mean, he got called a brickhead for it. I know that.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a good player. I mean, I think it was very interesting to me how Kachuk said nobody likes this guy, like, at all. And the only person to come out and defend him was Jonathan Quick. Like, nobody else, not ex-teammates, not current teammates. It was just Jonathan Quick. And last I checked, Jonathan Quick's not the nicest guy either. So I'm like, does that really say anything? I'm like, I get he's your teammate. Like, you gotta stick up for him, but I mean, you're also on your way out of the league. Like, what do you have to lose, Jonathan Quick? But I mean, he dives all over the ice. He's embellishment all over the ice. Like, he's a terrible player. He's just I don't get why people want this guy on his team. I guess 25 years old and he's cost controlled, but like, just doesn't do anything good for the game. I feel like this is.
I guess he can draw penalties, be a little instigator, a little shithead. But I mean, when it comes to that, if you can't play the game either, you're really losing your place in the league these days.
Yeah, agreed.
So, that brings us up to date. Let's answer a few questions before we get out of here. Carl Kashner, shout out to my cousin on Facebook, wants to know how we feel about those awful Trashville sweaters, which, yeah.
Yeah, that's
so hold on. I'm going to start here because I've looked at these things once a day. I don't know why.
I'm sorry.
I just think about it and I pull it up and I stare at it and I find a different reason to hate them every single time.
What I was most shocked about is they topped the New Jersey's alternate fucking jersey for being worst jerseys here. How do you do that? Like, how do you follow that up and make it even shittier? I don't get it.
It looked like they fell asleep early the night before they were supposed to like turn in a report, and they woke up really early and like put it together, and they're like, oh shit. But yeah, the font doesn't line up on the seam, which drives me nuts. Never mind the fact that Smashville is just the worst thing ever. They got to be the first team to have that on a jersey, right? Like the first team to it, like embrace
like a nickname like that,
nickname for their city. Because, I mean, come on. I mean, I've never seen that before.
Yeah, and you know it's bad because I was looking up because I was curious. I wanted to find an article. I was trying to look up, and I was like, I was searching it right now, and like it's bad when Golf Digest writes an article about the Predators jersey saying they're a crime against humanity. Golf Digest is chiming in on this, dude. How bad is that?
Oh, wow.
But no, someone made an alternate jersey. So like the guitar pick they have in the middle,
right? Someone
literally removed all Smashville, made a bigger guitar pick, put Smashville on like the shoulders. Right. It looks fantastic. It looks great.
It's a nice nod because they're still getting the Smashville here, but it's not like right here.
I'm not a fan of the nickname. I don't think you've earned that nickname for a town whatsoever. You went to the Cup final once and fell on your face. Like, that's my opinion. But I mean, yeah, and it's just like I'm just like looking at the sea from so many different angles, and it's like
it's in his armpit. That drives me nuts. It's so far over that it's like in his armpit. Like when the photos that they're showing from any of the shots, like you said, it doesn't even sit right. Like you can't even see it. And then there's all different kinds of sizes when it comes to the lettering. It's bad. They could have done anything. They could have brought back that like the old like skull logo, and because they brought back that color blue, which I think is cool. Like I've always liked that color blue. I think it was sweet. They could have leaned in a little bit more on the silver. There's a million things they could have done right, but they chose violence, that's for sure. Tampa's wound up being great, which was awesome. I think they kind of did what the Avalanche was trying to do and the Kings were trying to do. Remember like last year when they had the weird like coloring off, I don't know how you would even say that, just like the jagged edge look. And they did that. They had the bolts crossed. I think it looked good. But yeah, ultimately you guys already knew we were going to give a thumbs down to that. If Tommy would have came in here and he's like, dude, that new Trashville uni, I think I would have just hit the space bar and shut my laptop and then thrown it off my balcony. Honestly. Alex Miller wants to know, should the NHL suspend Connor McDavid for his hit versus the Kings? So that was last night or 2 nights ago. I don't know what player he hit. It looks worse than it really is. I don't think that this is Connor McDavid trying to get by being Connor McDavid. I do think if it was any other player, yes, they would have gotten a suspension for it. I don't feel like Connor McDavid we would have heard about it already. So that's,
Yes. So my take on it is if he wouldn't have gotten kicked out of the game, yes, but he was kicked out of the game. So no, even though it's kind of a cop out because it happened with like 6 or 7 minutes left in the third period. So like he really didn't miss much, but granted, I think the Kings won that game and that probably sealed it for them, I believe, because they were up 2-1 at the time. So I mean, maybe that's your punishment. I mean, he's obviously not someone that has that reputation. But happens again. I think you got to seriously look into it. But then, yeah, I mean, I don't get it. I mean, it goes to the whole thing with like, we didn't discuss it, but like Brad Marchand getting a 2 or 3 game suspension for a slew foot, and Subban does it 5 or 6 times in a season, and he gets a fine.
Right.
One fine, measly fine. That's like 0.5%, if that, of his fucking salary. Not even like, I don't get. Regardless, not the point.
We're in the age of video review, and thanks to the not a major 5-minute major from the Knights, everything's getting looked at now. Why not set a standard? And then from that standard, let's add to it if you're a repeat offender, but let's not look at it because you're a repeat offender. Let's just look at the crime at hand is how I look at it. Yeah, he's not a repeat offender, but to me, it didn't look that intentional. It just looked worse than it really was. I mean, you see the guy's face. He's like right up against the glass. It's kind of an intense hit. I hope he's okay. But no, I don't see anything coming from that. Yeah. So we got one last question here. And that's coming from Hockey Llama. Nice name on Twitter. If the All-Star game started tomorrow because the host city gets 3 to 4 players, talking about Vegas, who do I think is the lock and who is like on the fringe, I guess, of being a select? So I think Jonathan Marchessault is a lock. He's having a hell of a year. I don't think he's going to go to the Olympics. I don't think that he's on the radar for the Olympics. I think he's the perfect fit. I think that he'll wind up being a lock. I think now we can say confidently that Robin Lehner is a lock because he is not going to the Olympics.
I don't think he's going to make it.
Really?
Why should he?
Why you don't think he would make the All-Star game?
Yeah, over 3 goals against average. Unless there's a fan. Is there a fan vote this year? I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a good question. How does that go down? Don't the coaches vote for it? Isn't that how that works?
I mean, it used to have fan votes before. Is it open yet?
Yeah, they do the fan votes for like the last pick, right? It's not for all the picks.
But the fan votes for the captains, I thought. That's it.
Okay. Well,
one from each division, and then from there it's
I personally think I could see Robin Lehner. My vote for sure lock is going to be Jonathan Marchessault. I also wouldn't think much if Pacioretty was picked because I don't think he's going to go either to the Olympics. He's kind of an older family man. He doesn't really feel like he needs to prove himself to go play in the Olympics. So I could see him turning it down and being a part of it. So yeah, if I had my 3 picks, I think it would be Marchessault, Pacioretty, and Lehner. I think Lehner would slide in there, whether or not that's the case or not. I guess he's not having the greatest year, but I just think it would be in true Vegas fashion to pick a goaltender that they're trying to hoist up onto some sort of pedestal.
I suppose, yeah. I mean, if I'm being trying unbiased as I could be, I think the 3 I'd probably go with. I think just because of who he is. Probably Petrel, probably Mark Stone as well. And then from there, I think you probably choose between a Chandler Stevenson, a Riley Smith, and a Marchessault. Maybe one of those, maybe 2 of those.
Yeah, Stevenson's a good pick. But see, I didn't go with Petro and Stone because I figured they'll be in the Olympics. So if they wind up going over there, they wouldn't be available. So that's kind of with my picks. I definitely Stevenson because he's not on the radar. I would believe for Olympics. So yeah, that would be my 4th, I guess, out of those. My 3rd and 4th would be Stevenson and Lehner. But I think Marchessault is going to be the highlight for it. He's having a hell of a year. He's putting the puck in the net. He's an original misfit. I think he's kind of a Sherlock for sure. Not Sherlock Holmes. Yeah. So that concludes the questions. I think that pretty much concludes our episode. We appreciate
one thing before we wrap up. I have to mention it was shout out to Brandon Tanev for that fucking roast of Jeff Skinner. Did you hear that? The guy caught a hot mic in the game. So it's Kraken Sabres. And granted, Jeff Skinner's playing a lot better this year. He got that crazy $9 million AAV contract, right? And like Tanev's going to the bench and he's like, "Hey Skinner, you fucking suck. How the fuck did you get that deal?"
That's
right there, microphone, golden. I'm like, amazing. He's got some pretty damn good chirps. Shout out to Tanev for that. That's all I got.
Dude, I didn't realize that Tanev had a brother in the league, and they look identical. He's on the Flames.
Yeah.
I saw that last night during the Knights game. But yeah, I love Tanev, man. He's a character, and that's exactly what young teams need. Is like, if not a leader, just a locker room guy, right? He's got to be a dude that I would love to have a beer with. I mean, shit, his mugshot alone, and then embracing it, and then keep going, and then the chirps, and then I mean, yeah, and he's having himself one hell of a year. I mean, 8 goals, 5 assists for 13 points in 24 games on an expansion team. That's pretty good. And he wasn't even top 6 for a while. I think we talked about that on a previous episode. We weren't sure where he was slotted.
He'll have a career year there, in my opinion, only because they're an expansion team. But I mean, he's that exact guy where if you have the roster built the right way, he's your perfect 3rd line PK type guy. For sure. Awesome. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Make sure you check out fourthlinegoon.com.
Facebook.com/fourthlinegoon. We're on Twitter. We'll make sure you put all the credentials down below. Yeah, it's been great. We just shared our end of season wrapped. This is the most episodes we put out in a year. So go us, which is awesome. Usually I feel like podcasts start to trail off and fall off after doing this. We've been doing this for about 3 years now. And yeah, we're up 112% in our listeners, and we appreciate it. So if you're not subscribed, make sure you do that. Make sure you subscribe on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and YouTube. You got anything else you want to end on here?
No, I think just looking forward to the holidays here. I don't know if we'll probably get one more in before Christmas, I think, at least.
That's the goal for sure. If we don't hear from us, then I guess happy holidays.
Yeah, happy holidays, everyone.
Cheers.